So, I want you to imagine something for a second. Picture a city, right in the middle of the ocean. A glittering metropolis, straight out of a time we can barely even comprehend. This is the story of Dwarka, and for thousands of years, that's all it was, a legend.
You know, the ancient texts like the Bhagavata Purana, they paint this absolutely incredible picture. We're not just talking about some town. This was a city that was so advanced, so unbelievably rich, that its palaces were said to literally touch the sky, its walls just shimmering with gold and jewels. It was designed to be a perfect sanctuary. But, and here's the crazy part, this glorious city, this absolute pinnacle of an ancient civilization, just disappeared, vanished, swallowed whole by the ocean, all that splendor gone beneath the waves, and it happened almost overnight.
And for centuries, that's exactly what everyone thought it was. A fantastic story, a myth. But what happens when that line between myth and reality starts to blur? What if clues, buried for thousands of years under the sea, start to whisper that this legendary city was actually real?
Okay, so to really get why this search is so important, we have to go back to the original story. Because according to the ancient texts, Dwarka wasn't just any city. No, this was a city built by divine hands, specifically for Lord Krishna himself. The whole legend kicks off with a really practical problem. See, Krishna's city, Mathura, was getting attacked over and over again. So he thinks, okay, I need to build a new city, one that's basically an impenetrable fortress. He goes to the sea god and asks for some land, and the god grants him this huge chunk of land, literally pulled back from the ocean. And when you need to build a city for a god, who do you call? Well, the divine architect, Vishwakarma, of course.
But here's the thing about stories like this. A city born from a divine miracle was also destined for a pretty tragic end, and its doom wasn't sealed by an invading army. Nope, it was sealed by words. Two powerful and totally inescapable curses.
Yeah, the city's fate was sealed from two different angles. First, you have the end of the huge Mahabharata war. The grieving queen, Gandhari, is devastated, and she blames Krishna for her son's deaths, so she curses his entire clan, the Yadavas, saying they'll destroy each other from the inside out. Then, as if that wasn't enough, in a completely separate incident, Krishna's own son does something incredibly arrogant. He mocks some powerful sages, and they hit him with this second really weird and specific curse that he would give birth to an iron pestle that would wipe out their entire lineage. And you know what? Both prophecies came true in the most awful way possible. The texts tell us that the Yadava clan, fueled by too much wine and way too much arrogance during a festival, just turned on each other. They fought and fought until literally no one was left. With his people gone, Krishna's work on earth was done. He left the mortal world, and the ocean took back the land it had loaned. The magnificent city of Dwarka just slipped beneath the waves, gone.
And for thousands of years, that was it. End of story. Just a myth, maybe a cautionary tale about pride. But then, fast forward to the 20th century, and suddenly, science starts asking a brand new question. Hey, what if the story isn't actually over? So, how did this all start? Well, it began with whispers. Back in the 1930s, local fishermen, even pilots flying overhead, started reporting that they were seeing these strange geometric shapes, straight lines, under the water. That was enough to get the Archaeological Survey of India interested, and in the 60s, they started digging and found some ancient pottery. Cool, right? But the real game changer came in the 70s. They found a copper plate, an actual historical document that directly linked that very area to Lord Krishna. And just like that, the myth had a real, tangible foothold in reality.
Okay, so this is where the story gets really interesting. This is where one man's belief takes all these whispers and turns them into a full-blown scientific quest. Let me introduce you to Dr. S.R. Rao, a true pioneer, one of India's very first marine archaeologists. Now, Dr. Rao had a massive battle on his hands. And I'm not just talking about the challenges of underwater archaeology. His biggest fight was with the academic establishment. See, most scholars at the time just dismissed texts like the Mahabharata as religious myths, pure fantasy. But Dr. Rao, he had a different idea. He was convinced they were actually historical records, full of real geographical clues. He literally believed the map to find Dwarka was hidden right there in the pages of the ancient story. And get this, to start this absolutely monumental task, finding a lost city under the ocean, you know what his first budget was? 800 rupees. That's, what, maybe $10, $15 today? It's nothing. He was so underfunded that he often had to pay for his crew's food out of his own pocket. This whole thing was a quest fueled by nothing but pure passion and a deep, unshakable belief. Dr. Rao's incredible work in the 80s really cracked the door open, but it was the technology of the 21st century that was about to blow that door right off its hinges, providing proof that nobody could ignore.
So, in the early 2000s, new expeditions headed out, but this time they had a whole new arsenal of tools. I'm talking about side-scan sonar, which basically paints a picture of the ocean floor. Sub-bottom profilers that can see what's buried under all the sand and silt. And, of course, super advanced dating methods like carbon dating to figure out exactly how old everything was. This wasn't just digging in the dark anymore. This was full-on high-tech underwater forensics.
So, what did all this tech find? Well, it found a planned city. We're not talking about a couple of random rocks. They found a fortified wall over 500 meters long. They found massive stone pillars, dozens of ancient stone anchors, including some really advanced three-holed ones that tell you these people were serious about sailing. The sonar maps showed a grid-like street layout, clear evidence of a bustling port. This was the blueprint of a real, organized, thriving city.
But then came the discovery that just completely changed everything. Look, a lot of the artifacts they found dated back to around the time of the Mahabharata, 3,500 to 5,000 years ago. That lines up perfectly. But then they carbon dated one piece of wood they recovered from the site, and the result that came back was just shocking. It was 9,000 years old.
I mean, that discovery sent a massive shockwave through the entire archaeological world. 9,000 years old? Do you know what that means? That means a city existed here before the Harappan civilization, before ancient Mesopotamia. It just completely rewrites the timeline of human history as we know it. But wait, how is that possible? How do you get a 9,000-year-old piece of wood in a 5,000-year-old city? Well, geologists actually had the answer. It turns out that right around 9,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age, the glaciers melted and sea levels rose like crazy, swallowing up coastlines all over the world. So the theory is, the Dwarka from the legend was actually built on top of the ruins of an even older city that had been lost to the sea thousands of years before. So after all those decades of people being skeptical, all that searching, and all these incredible scientific breakthroughs, the story of Dwarka had finally come full circle. And it completed this amazing journey from being just a myth to becoming a real, tangible, historical place.
I mean, when you just lay it all out like that, what a journey, right? You start with this thriving city 5,000 years ago that just vanishes. Then silence for millennia. Then you get the first little clues in the 1930s. Then Dr. Rao's groundbreaking work in the 80s. That leads to the undeniable high-tech proof in the 2000s. And it all culminates in 2024 with this huge moment of national recognition when India's own Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, actually dives down to the site himself to pay his respects.
And I think, in the end, the story of Dwarka teaches us something really profound. It shows us that faith and science don't always have to be at odds with each other. In this case, they were partners. The ancient story, the faith, that provided the treasure map. And modern science, well, it just followed the map and proved that the treasure was real all along.
And that just leaves us with this one last incredible thought, doesn't it? For thousands and thousands of years, Dwarka was just a fairy tale. Now we know it was real, a piece of history just waiting under the waves. It really makes you wonder, how many other great myths from every culture on Earth aren't myths at all? How many are just true stories waiting for the right person, the right technology to come along and prove them right?